Squirrels! So hello, and welcome to another Legend of Runeterra video. My name is Chris, and after Reddit told us there was no champion today, guess what, Reddit? You were wrong. Tristana comes. And so let's see what Tristana will do. Let's go.
Bandle Gunner, Tristana,
that seems a bit loud, sorry. Okay, Tristana, 3 mana 1/3, only Bandle City. So is this the first Bandle City champion that is only Bandle City? Interesting. 3 mana 1/3, quick attack. I have +1 attack for each multi-region ally you've summoned this game. When you summon a multi-region ally, grant it 1 extra attack. And you've summoned 4+ multi-region allies, and that's not an I've seen or anything like that, so Tristana can level in the deck. So Tristana is kind of the Bandle tree Yordle. She's kind of like the Bandle City champion. You know, that, like, we'll have to, I guess, wait and see. Like, she doesn't really synergize with any other champion or any other archetype that we know of. You know, it's just Bandle City. She synergizes with Bandle City. So, you know, people constantly complain about flexible champions. This is kind of flexible. How good this will be, I guess we'll wait for the level up.
And ready to rocket. Let's get him, squad.
Nothing can stop me.
Engaging.
Let's go.
So we know what Manifest does if you've been paying any attention. And this is a 3 mana 2/2 Yordle. Your multi-region units cost 1 less. Play Manifest a multi-region follower. So I guess they kind of want it to be, you know, somewhat like tempo oriented, and like, you know, Tristana seems pretty like aggressive. Obviously, she gives everything extra attack. God, this is going to be an interesting deck to make. And obviously, like, this thing could mean that, you know, you just like slam down a bunch of other cards. This is really interesting. And obviously, like, your opponent needs to get rid of this thing.
Oh, grab my hat, comb my mustache. Your esteemed mayor has arrived. Has the battle started?
I'm sure your speech will cheer us on regardless. Bandle City #1.
Gunners get on jobs done.
What?
Holding position. Look at them, shaking in their boots.
Ooh. Grow an ally to 3/3.
Victory.
Goes pretty well with that thing. Oh, that's sad.
I got your 6 shortcakes.
Love it, Big Mama. Let's bring this home. Blasting off! Bye-bye, bad guys!
Tristana leveled up. Obviously gets the 1/1 stat line, keeps the extra attack. When you summon a multi-region ally, grant it an extra attack and impact. So yeah, it seems pretty aggressive. This, I have no idea how good this is, because it's really going to depend on like the other multi-region cards. You know, it's going to completely depend on the other multi-region cards. So I have, like, how good this will be, I have literally no idea.
Winners don't duck.
Why do they show us all this like extra bit of combat? Oh, so this is what double impact, by the way, looks like. So it tells you like impact 2 here on the bottom. You know, we were wondering why it says it stacks and what that means, but look, it tells you like impact 2 because these already have impact, which is quite interesting. Anyway, Bandle Gunners, 8 mana 7/7 spell shield. When I'm summoned, if you summoned units from 4+ region in this game, grant me impact 4 times. So this will have impact 4, which means that it does 4 to the Nexus when it strikes and attacks. So that's kind of like an interesting card, actually. Interesting.
Bandle Gunners, this is why we fight.
Might.
That's the way the Bandle Gunners do.
This, I think, is the interesting card. A 1 mana burst speed, grow an ally to 3/3 this round. It's quite interesting. You know, obviously it works with quite a few different things, really. Like challenges, of course, like Flame Chompers. Like, you know, loves this card. You know, like things to keep like Teemo alive or like Zoe alive or any like small unit champion. Yeah, you know, like anything that has less than 3 health, I guess. Yeah, like imagine someone goes to Mystic Shot your Teemo and at 1 mana burst speed you make it a 3/3. That would be insane, right? But anyway, let's look at the other cards as well on Mobalytics. Okay, so Dak GG instead got there first. So let's look at the cards here. Obviously, we've seen Tristana. This is her champion spell, Buster Shot, which is a 4 mana slow speed spell. Costs 2 less if you have a Tristana, or if you've summoned or cast cards from 4+ regions this game, deal 3 to a unit. So I guess as Tristana's champion spell, it's just a 2 mana deal 3 to a unit, which is obviously quite good. You know, that's good. Obviously, like Gotcha is the kind of comparison, but this is slow speed, so it is a bit worse. So I think, again, this kind of follows the Senna pattern, but maybe not quite as good, where, you know, it's a good champion spell. You know, it's a perfectly fine champion spell, but, you know, I don't think is good enough to see play on its own. Bandle in Maya, obviously, we've seen. Bandle Painter is a 3 mana 2/3 augment. And interesting, looking at these cards, I would have thought they would have all been, you know, dual region cards, given what Tristana does, but none of them are, it seems. So, Bandle Painter with augment, play discard a card to create a multi-region follower in hand. You discard a card to create a multi-region follower in hand. I mean, it's not bad, you know, you could, it's, but it is a 2/3, but then it also has augment, so it can grow to more than a 2/3. It's not terrible, but again, it'll depend on the pool of all the multi-region followers, you know, and how many of them are like want things that you want, and how many of them are things that you definitely don't want. You know, that all will have a big impact on this card as well. I'm not sure it's quite good enough to see play, though. It's on the edge. Gruff Grenadier is a 4 mana 4/3 with impact. Allegiance. This is the Allegiance card. Summon another Yordle follower that costs 3 or less. So this is the Allegiance card, and we haven't had confirmation, but I'm just going to assume that like dual region counts as Allegiance for both and doesn't, you know, isn't a non-Allegiance card. Summon another Yordle follower that costs 3 or less. So it's kind of similar to Wraithcaller. You know, Wraithcaller would be the obvious sort of idea of this. Now, again, you know, you'd have to go through the pool of Yordle followers and see how many of them are good and how many are bad. To look at like how good this card is. It has impact, which, you know, is at least something. And I guess if you get a 3-drop, then it's probably alright. You know, I'm guessing that most 3-drops, you know, would get you there. And so it's also going to depend on the distribution of, like, how many 1-drops are there, how many 2-drops, how many 3-drops, how many of them are good. So, you know, as an Allegiance card, though, I'm not sure. I guess it does fit with Tristana. Is she a summon? She is summon. So you don't have to play them. So it is summon. So Gruff Grenadier, I guess the idea is we'll summon you a multi-region one, which will then, you know, increase the attack of Tristana and it as well. So we'll see, I guess. Bandle Gunners, obviously we saw, gets the impact 4 times. Now this is a 7/7, which is, you know, big stats, you know, not bad stats. And it does have impact 4 times, and it does have Spell Shield as well. So it's not like your opponent is going to remove it. I do want, like, if this was 7 mana, I'd say this is good. This is worth playing. At 8, I just feel like it might be a tick too slow for both what the deck is trying to do and, you know, just kind of overall, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced, I guess is what I would say. Double Tap is a 6 mana fast speed spell. An ally strikes an enemy. If the ally is multi-region, it strikes the enemy again. Now it's 6 mana. Like, it's obviously like just a worse concerted strike, I would have thought. Although, you know, Yeah, this is just a worse Concerted Strike, because the benefit of having Concerted Strike and picking 2 allies is even if they remove 1, like, it's still taking some damage, most likely. So, yeah, whereas this, obviously, they could just, even if it is a big unit, you know, they could always just try and put everything into remove it, and it costs 1 more mana, so I don't think double tap will be there. Especially because it doesn't, I think Tristana wants to go somewhat fast, you know, just based off her design. And obviously double tap is a 6 mana spell. I'm not sure is really fitting that aim. Yordles in Arms is a 5 mana slow speed spell. Give allies 2/2 this round. If you summon or cast cards from 4+ regions, give allies 4/4 instead. Now this could fit in. Just giving things 4/4 is like, that's how you're winning a game. And at 5 mana, that's kind of the speed that you want. Giving things 4/4, like if you do this on like turn 6, like you're, you know, all of a sudden, like even your 1-drop, you know, think about it, you have like a 1 mana 2/1, right? Well, now it's a 6/5. You know, your opponent is in trouble, and this only costs 5 mana. This seems like, obviously, I don't think you'll use it if it's only giving the 2/2. Like, but I'm sure you've played in a game before where someone has played 4 Demacia on you, and you've been like, oh, this is annoying. You know, this is a threat. You know, now I have to take these blocks that I don't really like. Well, this costs 1 less and gives everything +1/1 in this deck, right? In the Tristana deck. So that's good. Yeah, this we'll see play in that deck. Not sure anywhere else, but in the Tristana deck it will. Group Shot is a 1 mana fast speed spell. Deal 1 to an enemy. If you have 4+ allies, deal 2 instead. Oh, why couldn't this just say enemy or enemy nexus? Then it would be good. Then it would be really good. I mean, it's not horrendous because you can use this in response, right? Like they try and kill something whilst you've got like 4, and then you try and kill something instead. It's not horrendous, but I don't know if it's good enough to see play. Yeah, if it said enemy nexus, forget about it. This card would be one of the best cards in the game, probably, I think. You know, or up there. It would be a really good card. But yeah, I don't know. Purple Berry Shake, I think in certain decks, like, you're definitely going to play this. As I said, with those, like, the Teemos, if you have a lot of small units, if you really go all in on kind of like small units, and this is just good. This is just really good. And this I think again fits this deck pretty well. Like we saw them use it on Bandle City Mayor, and I think that's a good example of a card you would use it on. And then you just want to like vomit out your hand with Bandle City Mayor, and you know, just go crazy and just get rid of your entire hand. And then, you know, you use like Purple Berry Shake on one of the small things, or you can use it on Bandle City Mayor. So I kind of like that. Overall, this is probably like the hardest day in terms of like rating these cards, because we need to see how many different, like, you know, multi-region followers, or like what I think you want is obviously a bunch of small multi-region followers. Now, to me, Tristana can fit pretty well with Poppy. I think that those two could go pretty well together. Obviously, Poppy is Bandle City Demacia as well, so giving her an extra attack, and obviously then like buffing everything like even more, and just having this deck that goes like, you know, really wide, really fast. That, you know, you like just pound your enemy down with like this really wide, because they both want to go wide. They both want to go wide, and they both want to go quite fast. And so I feel like, I'm not sure if it would be Poppy's best way of playing, but I think it definitely could be Tristana's best way of playing, if you understand what I mean. Now, it's possible that something else will come out that will synergize with Tristana, and again, it's kind of like, you know, the whole Vinegar situation where, you know, we thought, oh god, don't know about that, and then it turns out Sened was just a Darkness champion, and then we all look at it as, oh yeah, this actually looks decent. That could happen here as well, so, you know, I'm not going to write Tristana off right now, but knowing what I do now, I feel like Poppy is the best way to play with Tristana. But as I say, I think Poppy might have better options, whether it's elusives, whether it's, you know, something else, just based off the cards we saw today. If there was a bunch of like dual region 1-drops, you know, that had aggressive stat lines or whatever, then, you know, then I would say maybe not. But as is, I'm a little lukewarm on Tristana. So quick ratings. Tristana, I would give, as of right now, probably like a 6.5. I mean, she is a quick. She's probably like a 3-mana 3/3 quick attack, right? On the turn she comes down. So, you know, that's at least decent. And then she keeps growing, you know, to 5, 6, 7. So she has inherent value just there. And she also, you know, gives your other things, you know, an extra attack as well. So it's not, she's not terrible by any means. I'm just wondering if she can actually go in a tier 1 deck. So she's fine. You know, she's fine. She doesn't need to see to level up. You know, there's quite a few things going for Tristana that, you know, make her, I think, a decent champion. And it's possible that more cards will come out that make Tristana a really good champion. I think her floor is like a 6. Her ceiling, you know, depending on what other cards come out, could be very high indeed. So I'd say, you know, she's at least like a 6.5 from like where I'm standing right now. But like, it feels like right now there aren't quite the options. And maybe there is, and I just can't think off the top of my head. But yeah, that's what I'd go with. Buster Shot, as I say, a good champion spell. The card itself, I don't think you'll play. This is like a 4 maybe. The slow speed, yeah, maybe it's like a 3. The slow speed is pretty bad. Bandle City Mayor is a really interesting card. Obviously, within the deck that you're going to play this, because obviously you're only going to play this in like a deck that has a lot of multi-region units. I mean, it creates you a card and it has a decent effect, and it's a threat for your opponent that they kind of have to remove. So that has a pretty decent value. So that's like a 7. You know, it's like a 7. It's like a solid card in that deck. Maybe it's a bit too slow for the deck. I'm not quite sure though. Which is weird for a card that like makes your units cost 1 less. But I really do think you kind of want to, like, the ideal is to go like 1-drop, 1-drop, 1-drop Tristana, you know, for this deck. And so then when does this fit in? You know what I mean? Bandle Painter. I think, as I said, the discard, we'll have to see if there is like a lot of creation for you to discard the cards. If you don't mind discarding cards, which maybe you won't, you know, we've got pranks and the like. It's fine. It's a fine card. It's not insane. It's fine. It's like a 6. Gruff Grenadier, the Allegiance card. Again, it's gonna come. Someone needs to do like, you know, some looking at the maths on this and like looking at how many are good options and how many are bad options. I'm gonna assume there's probably quite a few bad options. Generally, there tends to be like more bad than good options for these kind of things. So I'm gonna assume that it's pretty bad. It's also an Allegiance card as well, so you have to build around it. So I'm gonna give this like a 5. Bandle Gunners, as I said, if this was 7 mana, I'd be like, yeah, this is definitely gonna be the finisher for the deck. But as it's 8 mana and that turn just feels such a big deal, and then, you know, you play this and then they play Farron and then you lose the trade and it's like, oh my god, what am I doing? All of that feels pretty bad. So it's not a bad card, but I think I'd give this again a 5. I just wish it was 7 mana, because then I would be like, oh yeah, I'm all over this. Double tap isn't inherently terrible, you know, like being a bad concerted strike still nets you as, you know, an okay card. But again, I don't this doesn't really fit the speed of this. So I don't know what deck you'd actually play this in. So again, this is like a 5. Yodel in Arms, I think, is a really exciting card. A card that I could definitely see getting some play in this deck. You know, it's the right speed. It's the right kind of, you know, it fits what the deck wants to do really well. So I kind of like that. So I think that this is like an 8, which normally you wouldn't ever say for a slow speed spell, but it fits the deck. It does exactly what it wants to do. It's at the right tempo for the deck. And it's like a prime win condition. Like, why would you need this when you could just play this? You know, play this on turn 5, you know, with your full board and just smack them in the face. Makes sense to me. Group Shot, you know, isn't okay. Like, it's not terrible, right? I just don't, like, how often do you actually think about removing units in these aggro decks? You know what I mean? Like, you do sometimes, but it's not often, and I think it's not often enough to warrant putting this in your deck. And I think that that's the only deck that this really fits in. So again, this is like a 5.5. Purple Boy Shake is a really cool, nice little card. Really cool design on this card, because some people are going to go 1 mana burst speed. That's broken, but I don't think it is broken, because there's only so many things that you can actually use it on. You know, I gave you the good options of like Teemo and Zoe, Fizz, you know, all the small little units. Yeah, sure, this is great for, but as soon as you're like past a turn 3 unit, you know, this is pretty much doing nothing. And even a lot of 2-drops, you know, you're only really giving them 1 extra health, which could be a big deal, but, you know, they're all like kind of 2/3s or 3/2s, most of them anyway, so, you know, you're not even giving them that much stats there either. So, oh man, how good is this card? How good is this card? You'd run it in a deck with a bunch of 1-drops. Because it's going to buff up all the 1-drops, a couple stats. So you're going to play it in a deck full of 1-drops. If there's a Bandle City, you know, Bilgewater deck with, you know, all the 1-drop cards. And I do think, by the way, the Bandle Tree deck, we have to see all of the reveals. But the Bandle Tree deck, I think Bilgewater is the best way to build that, because you have spells like Double Trouble that give you completely random things. And Jailbreak gives you a completely random one from any region, whereas a lot of the other things is from your regions. But I do feel like Bilgewater probably is the best way. And I do think if you wanted a secondary win condition in that kind of deck, that you could go for like, you know, a kind of 1-cost follower type build with Bilgewater and Bandle City. I do think that could work, and that might be okay. And, you know, you could use something like Jagged Taskmaster in there as well. And obviously this would fit in that kind of list to help keep your 1-drops alive. So not, I don't know, like a 6, you know, fits in a specific deck, but nothing else. And that's the reveals today. We did get a champion, an interesting one that I don't really know what to say. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and have a really nice day, everyone. And I'll be back tomorrow with hopefully more reveals.